Skylar Morales pressed her palms against the cold surface of her locker, the unfamiliar scent of pine and polished hallways filling her lungs. Starting over at a new school in the middle of the semester was never easy, but doing it in a place like Fairview High, nestled in the Colorado mountains, made it feel like climbing Everest with no gear. Back in Seattle, she had been just another face in a sea of 2,000 students. Here, with only 800 kids and generations-old cliques, Skylar might as well have been wearing a blinking neon sign that read, "Outsider." At 16, Skylar didn't look like much, just a lean girl in a gray hoodie and jeans, her long black hair tied back, quiet brown eyes scanning the hallway with cautious focus. But beneath that soft exterior was someone very few would guess at, a second-degree black belt in karate, trained under Sensei Nakamura for nearly a decade. Not that anyone here knew. And she planned to keep it that way. Her mother, Rosa, had taken a nursing job at the small local hospital, hoping Fairview would offer them both a quieter, safer life after years of instability. Skylar had promised to lay low, to focus on school, and not stir trouble like she had in middle school when her sense of justice got her into too many fights. But even as she walked through the halls of Fairview High, dodging stares and whispers, something in the air told her, trouble didn't need an invitation. It had a way of finding you, especially when you stood up for the wrong person. As the first bell rang, Skylar slipped into her English class just as Mrs. Bennett called roll. 28 heads turned. The quiet new girl from the city had arrived, and no one knew what she was capable of. By second period biology, Skylar had already mapped out the social structure of Fairview High with the precision of a strategist. The school was a social pyramid, and at the very top sat Austin Reddick, the golden-haired football captain whose smirk could silence a room. He wasn't alone, of course. His enforcers, Mason Hill and Jordan Knox, shadowed him like loyal dogs. Mason, a lanky redhead with a cruel sense of humor, played soccer but mostly liked making people uncomfortable. Jordan, quieter but just as dangerous, had the kind of build that came from years on the basketball court. Together, they ruled with a blend of charisma, intimidation, and inherited privilege. "Stay clear of that trio," whispered Mei Lin, the girl Skylar had been partnered with in the lab. Petite, bespectacled, and soft-spoken, May had moved to Fairview from San Jose 2 years ago and knew the terrain well. Austin's dad practically owns half the town. The teachers let him get away with murder. Skylar listened, adjusted the microscope, and gave a quiet nod. She'd seen this dynamic before. Different names, different town, same script. Later that day, walking down the main corridor toward her next class, she saw the hierarchy in action. Austin was surrounded by a semicircle of laughing students near the lockers. His voice was loud, performative, designed to carry. "You should have seen Marcus's face when Coach made him run laps," he jeered. "Poor guy nearly cried. Maybe if he wasn't glued to his girlfriend, he wouldn't suck so bad." Mason laughed like a hyena. "Speaking of disappointments, did you see the new girl?" He glanced toward Skylar as she passed. "Looks like she got dressed in a donation bin, probably from some Seattle trailer park." Skylar's jaw clenched, but she kept walking. Her steps were silent. Her training kicked in, not for defense, but for restraint. Let it go. Don't give them what they want. But then, Austin's voice dropped. "City girls always come here thinking they're smarter, cooler, better. It's our job to show them otherwise." That was when Skylar felt it. Not fear, not shame, but the low rumble of something her sensei had taught her to recognize. Righteous fire. Controlled, contained, but always present. At lunch, Skylar sat with May at a corner table by the window. The cafeteria was a kingdom, and the center belonged to Austin and his crew. As they laughed and mocked a freshman for looking at them wrong, Skylar watched silently. The boy's tray was flipped. His phone cracked. Teachers turned away. May whispered, "Don't get involved. Not here. Not with them." Skylar didn't reply. But inside, the balance was already shifting. Skylar had promised her mother she wouldn't fight. Not here. Not in this town where reputations stuck like glue and even the smallest misstep could follow you for years. But that promise began to splinter the moment she saw Austin Reddick shove that terrified freshman against the cafeteria wall. It started like any other scene of cruelty, small enough to be ignored, just loud enough to be noticed. The boy, no older than 14, was cornered between a lunch table and a trash can, his hands trembling as Mason held up his cracked phone for everyone to see. "Look at this," Mason mocked. "Ah, he's texting his mommy again. Should we send her a picture of her little boy crying?" The boy reached for his phone, only for Austin to yank it away again and hold it high. "Nah, I think it's time he learned how things work around here." Skylar stood up. May grabbed her wrist. "Don't," May whispered. "He'll come after you next. They always come after the ones who speak up." Skylar gently pulled free. "I'm not afraid of Austin Reddick." The cafeteria went still as she stepped forward, her steps quiet, purposeful. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't make a scene. But when she stopped between the boy and the 3 seniors, the air shifted. "That's enough," she said. Austin turned around, already grinning. "Well, well, Seattle speaks." He stepped closer, towering over her by a full foot. "You sure you want to get involved in something that's not your business?" Skylar didn't move. "Bullying is my business." He laughed. "What are you gonna do? Write an essay about it?" Mason moved to grab her arm. He didn't make it. In one seamless motion, Skylar shifted her weight, twisted under his reach, and sent him sprawling with a simple hip throw, so fast, so clean, that it looked almost accidental. Mason crashed to the floor, winded and stunned. The cafeteria exploded into gasps and the scraping of chairs. Phones were up, students whispering. May stared like she was seeing a ghost. Austin's smile vanished. "What the hell?" Jordan took a cautious step forward. She just flipped Mason like he was made of paper." Skylar's stance was calm but solid. She wasn't breathing hard. Her face remained neutral, but her eyes, those quiet eyes, locked on Austin like lasers. "I'm not here to fight," she said clearly, "but I won't let you hurt anyone else." Austin's ego, his image, his control, it all cracked in that moment. The king of Fairview High had just been upstaged by a girl half his size in front of the entire cafeteria, and he couldn't let that stand. "You want a real fight?" he growled. "Fine. After school, no interruptions. Just you and me." Skylar didn't flinch. "Name the place." "Behind the old maintenance building," he said. 3:30. Don't be late." Skylar nodded. "I won't be." She turned and walked back to her seat, every eye in the room following her. The freshman picked up his broken phone, mouth open in awe. Austin glared at his fallen teammate. "Get up, Mason. We've got some training to do." And just like that, the game changed. Skylar wasn't invisible anymore. She was a threat, and Fairview High was about to find out exactly who they'd underestimated. The bell rang at 3:25 p.m., but no one at Fairview High was heading to the buses. Instead, a silent migration had begun. Students trickled around the side of the school, past the dumpsters and old sheds, to the forgotten concrete slab behind the maintenance building. Word had spread like wildfire. Austin Reddick challenged the new girl, and she said yes. Skylar was already there, standing in the center of the cracked pavement, her hoodie zipped up, sleeves rolled neatly to her elbows. No stance, no theatrics, just presence. Austin arrived a minute later, flanked by Mason and Jordan, both bruised and still nursing pride. His football jacket hung open, his fists clenched. Around them, over 100 students formed a wide circle, hushed and expectant. Even teachers hovered in the background, uncertain whether to intervene. Austin stepped forward. Last chance to back down. Skylar met his gaze. Last chance to walk away. That was all it took. He lunged. The fight was over in 15 seconds. Skylar moved like water, redirecting his energy, slipping past his brute strength, never striking to injure, only to disarm. A sweep here, a controlled takedown there, and finally, Austin was flat on his back, staring up at the sky as the crowd around him erupted, not in laughter, not in mockery, but stunned, breathless awe. No one said a word as Skylar stepped back, offered her hand. Austin didn't take it. He sat up, chest heaving, eyes wide. Then, to everyone's shock, he nodded. Not in defeat, but in recognition. You could have humiliated me, he said. Why didn't you? Skylar's voice was calm. Because you're not my enemy. You're just someone who never got told no. Austin blinked. For the first time in his life, he didn't have a comeback. Over the next few days, the school changed. The freshman boy, Ben, found new friends, safe spaces. May was no longer eating lunch alone. And Austin? He stopped mocking people, started listening, even invited Skylar to speak at a leadership meeting for student athletes. But Skylar didn't bask in attention. She still sat by the window, still trained every morning before school. Only now, when she walked the halls, people moved not out of fear but respect. A week later, Skylar stood alone on the small hill overlooking Fairview High, the late autumn sun casting long golden shadows across the football field. From here, the school looked peaceful, normal, but she knew better. Something had shifted. And this time, it wasn't just inside her. She hadn't set out to become a symbol. She didn't want followers or attention. All she'd wanted was to start over, stay quiet, avoid trouble. But trouble had a way of finding people who couldn't stomach injustice. And in standing up, just once, she had unknowingly given others permission to do the same. Austin passed by her on the steps the next morning. He didn't glare. He didn't smirk. He simply nodded, as if to say, I see you now. And for Skylar, that was enough. In homeroom, May smiled and scooted over, offering half her bagel. The freshman boy, Ben, walked past and whispered a thank you before slipping into his seat. Around the room, students who once looked through her now met her eyes. Change didn't always roar in. Sometimes it arrived in quiet waves, one action, one choice, one voice refusing to stay silent. Skylar Morales had been underestimated because she was soft-spoken, new, and small. But true strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks in quietly and turns the entire system on its head.